Okay, so this is your interview for my history class. So you could state your full name and your age and any fun fact.
Kacey Stevens, born 1971, age 52.
Okay, so where were you born and who else was in your family?
I was born in 1971. I lived in West Texas, Lubbock, Texas. I have an older brother, an older sister, and mom and dad.
Is that where your parents were born to?
No, my mom was born in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was born in Snyder, Texas.
So how did they meet?
They met the first semester at Texas Tech.
Got it. So tell me about like whenever you grew up, like your childhood, like your neighborhood, stuff like that.
Very traditional Southern West Texas town, Southern Baptist, raised. Not a lot going on West Texas. Most people are either farming or ranching at that time. My dad was in the grocery business, and my mom was a CPA for UPS. And so I was probably of the norm, not of the norm, because both my parents did work full time. Where a lot of my friends, the mother stayed at home.
So since you said it was very traditional, was there like certain activities or traditions that you guys had?
Tradition was every summer we would go to Colorado. Dad was a big fisherman. Mom liked to fish and hike, and so summers were spent there.
Right.
I did not enjoy that, so I chose to go to the grandparents' house for a couple of weeks every summer because I had more fun there.
So your grandparents lived in another state?
My grandparents lived in Odessa, Texas. My grandfather was in the oil field business, and my grandmother worked for a gas company.
Got it. So was it English, the language that you grew up with?
Yes, everybody in my family was English. Yeah, and nobody else spoke any other language. My parents were probably the first generation that graduated college in their time, so that would probably have been in the 50s, 60s, I'm guessing.
Whenever you said you were talking about your childhood, were you like close with your neighbors and do you guys play around like growing up and stuff?
Yes, we played outside all the time. My brother was 2 years older, so we were very close in age. We did ride our bikes all over our neighborhood there. I think I was the only girl. Everybody else was, yes, in my neighborhood.
Oh my
Everybody else was boys. I was a big tomboy, and we played wiffle ball and basketball nonstop. And riding our bikes. We were allowed to go to the local convenience store, which was the Handy Hut, and we would go and get candy.
And growing up, did you have any hobbies?
No, I just mostly played basketball growing up and softball. I was probably the most active in sports between all my siblings, and mom was very busy running the taxi cab after work.
Were you spending a lot of time with your parents at this time?
Yes, my parents, mom worked and shuttled the kids in the evenings for all their activities, and he worked, but dad was the one that stayed home, cooked meals at night, and did laundry, things like that. And then, of course, both of my parents were always at every game or function we ever had.
So you mentioned that your dad was the one cooking the meals. Was that very stereotypical back then?
It was not typical back then. Usually the women did everything back then. I guess my parents weren't normal because they both worked full time, and
they had a balance between you?
Yeah, they had a balance, and it was fine with my dad to be at home at night and do things like that.
What values were you taught as a young?
Values: always be honest, pay all your debts, whether you owe somebody a nickel or not. You pay your debts first, and work hard.
Got it.
Yeah.
So did you carry those with you throughout your whole life?
Yes, I think I did.
Good. Have your interests or hobbies changed over time?
Yeah. Now that I'm an adult, I like doing different things.
What are some of your favorite things?
My favorite hobby is with my girlfriends when we go tour wineries and do wine tastings. We do enjoy just getting together and spending time like that. In the summer, we usually do a girls' trip and go do something fun out of the norm.
So you do a lot of physical activity still?
Yeah, I mean, as far as physical activity, yes. I'm an avid, I try and work out every day, walk at least every day, and just because it keeps you mentally fit, and it helps me sleep very well at night.
So, as you were mentioning, you kind of spent a lot of time outside. There wasn't really much technology.
No, we had no technology.
Mm-hmm.
We had the phone cord that was 100 feet long that could go in every room that you would often talk in a closet with on the phone when you were little because everybody could hear.
Yeah.
And for game-wise, we had a Atari is what we would play.
Were they very strict on technology back then, even on the phone?
No, I was the third child, so my parents were kind of lenient on the rules. I think my sister, she was always grounded. She's 6 years older, so she was always in trouble if she get grounded from the phone and stuff. But yeah, the third child, I had it good. My parents were tired, and so I got away
with more stuff.
Yeah, like I never got grounded from the phone or from my car, when we drove and things like that.
So how has that changed now? Like, are you more, do you use technology more now?
I use a lot of technology, but I'm also very grateful growing up we didn't have technology because I think it's a love-hate relationship with technology because people do things when they're young in college and stuff, and all that today gets recorded where, back in the day there was no record. Like, you had to have set plans. Yeah, it was set plans, so you had to tell your parents, like, I'm going here and you got to pick me up at this time, and nothing could change because you couldn't get a hold of your parents.
Got it. So I remember you mentioned that whenever you were younger, your grandparents used to pay you a penny to pick up apples. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I was also the youngest grandchild. So all my cousins are older. They're 8 to 12 years older than me. So again, I had it very lucky as a young one. When I was 5, my grandfather retired, and so I got to spend a lot of more time with him. And my grandparents did a lot of woodworking, and my grandmother painted, and she had a shop in her backyard that she would sell her things, and she would teach painting lessons and different things. And so they had a big apple tree. And when the apples fall daily, they put brown spots on the grass, and my grandfather didn't like it. So yeah, I got paid a penny an apple. And we realized years later at my grandfather's funeral, when we were all reminiscing on stories, I was the only one that ever got paid. The others had to do it as their chores whenever they were there, so we got a good laugh out of that.
That's so good. So you said that your parents did go to college, right?
Yes.
So was that also very normal back then, or?
No, it was not normal. I'd say probably half of my friends, their parents, one or the other, did attend college. Back then, not many graduated. Now, my mom was raised very differently. Basically, she was raised to be the woman of the house. You don't really do anything but cook and clean, and my mother did not want that. And so she purposely fought and convinced her parents to let her go to college. And when she got there, she ended up working at Tech the entire time, working in one of the dorms so she could get free room and board. And that's why she went to school, because she didn't have a desire to fulfill that culture of the normal of a woman's job back then.
Got it. So was that because I'm assuming back then it was mostly work and not really education.
Yeah, most people just went from high school, some trained just to do other jobs, but Tech was up and coming at the time, believe it or not, and being from West Texas and living in Lubbock, that was really, when I went to school, the only choice my parents gave me was to go to Tech.
Okay, so since your parents did go to college, was that something that they enforced on you, or was it something
Yes.
that they could choose?
It was never a choice about any of us kids going to school. It's like, you are going to school and you're going to go to Tech, and then whatever we wanted to study was up to us. But because my parents lived in Lubbock, it was always, you can live at home and go to school.
Got it. So when you did go to college, did you have trouble finding what you wanted to do, or did you always know kind of what you wanted to study?
No, I really didn't know. I went in not really knowing. I just took basics. I wish at the time the norm was to go to junior college and get all your basics done. And then I just kind of locked into accounting and finance. And so I quickly, probably my second year of college, changed my major to business finance.
Got it. Did you like going to college? Your experience?
Yes, so I started at Tech, and I really did like it. It's a very social school, but you can get involved in so many different ways and give back to the community. And so I went to Tech for 3.5 years, and then I transferred to UT Arlington, which I finished. And I liked UT Arlington, but UT Arlington to me was just a commuter school. Their social life wasn't as large or as a big thing as it was at Tech.
So your social life in college was something that you kind of prioritized in a way? Did you
Yeah, it was important, when you're 18 and you only know Lubbock, it was a big thing because you got to meet
new people
stuff from all over, from Dallas, from just all over. So it was a really good experience.
Was there many clubs that you could join and stuff?
There's a ton of clubs you can join, and if you have the finances, you could join as many as you want. Which my parents did not pay for that. They only paid for school, so I had to pay for everything else.
Were you in sororities?
I was in a sorority.
How was your experience?
It was positive. I was in Delta Gamma. I think it was because I was in a sorority, I learned how to study, and you have to make your grades.
Got it.
So you have lots of study hall hours weekly that you have to attend in a sorority, and I think because of that, it made me focus on studying because I also worked probably 30 hours a week.
Got it. So when you did you I mentioned last, like a couple questions back, how you were like, did you have a plan? You always stuck to that plan?
My plan in college was just to go and get out of Lubbock.
So you just wanted to experience new places?
Yes, I did. And then probably after my first freshman year, then I kind of really knew which direction I wanted to go. And so I did.
Perfect. So was there like certain subjects growing up in college that you liked better than others or enjoyed better?
I really enjoyed my last 2 years of college when you really study your key classes versus just your required classes. And so I think once I hit that second level in college is when I really enjoyed it the most, because you met closer with your peers, and the projects and everything you worked on were probably more to real life job duties than just doing your core classes.
Perfect. So what was like your dream career your freshman year when you decided what you wanted to do?
My freshman year, I thought I could get a job making millions and billions of dollars and travel the earth, and life didn't work that way.
What was the career you wanted to go into?
Actually, at Tech, I was ag, real estate, and land development.
Did you ever go into those fields? Did you ever work that?
I did a couple of just jobs and stuff. Growing up, we had family who farmed and ranched, and so
you kind of wanted to go more into that.
I don't know that I necessarily want to be a farmer or a rancher, but just doing agribusiness, land loans, banking, stuff like that.
So would you say that your high school and college experiences were very different or kind of the same?
I think they were kind of the same. I mean, high school was high school, typical high school, nothing great. The thing that I remember most about high school was all the drinking and driving, the mad mothers against drunk driving. Every assembly was about that. And sadly, I probably had 10 people killed my all 4 years of high school from drinking and driving.
Was
so
that
back then, that was like
a big thing.
That was a really big thing.
Got it. So whenever you were growing up, was religion implemented on you, or was that something that you could have chosen for yourself?
No, my parents raised us Baptist. We were in church, every week. I still attend when I go home to see my dad, the same church I grew up in. But my parents just raised us to believe in the Lord. But, if you grow up and you want to be Catholic or you want to be whatever, research it and study it and be that, don't be a halfway.
Got it.
So, they just wanted us to follow the Lord in whatever religion we believe and we believe to the fullest.
Got it. So based on that, what holidays did you guys celebrate?
We celebrated, of course, Easter was really big in our family, as well as Christmas. Thanksgiving, we had a large family on my dad's side, so every holiday was always at my grandparents' and everybody was there.
Got it. So would you say that your childhood and education were different than the ones kids are having now?
Yes, I think it's very different because we're living in different times. I don't know that. I guess it just depends on the family on, whether as far as religion and how strict they were. I can remember on Sundays growing up, Lubbock had blue laws. And so there was nothing open on Sunday. The grocery store was only open, I think, till noon.
Blue laws were kind of like restrictions?
Yeah. So blue laws were kind of like you couldn't sell or work on Sundays in Lubbock. So it was later on that they changed some of the blue laws where restaurants were open, because I remember we started eating out after church, where before Mom cooked every Sunday because there was nothing open.
Yeah. So how, like, were the blue laws set for a long period of time? Or was it just like...
Yeah, I think they were. How
old were you when they went away?
I don't know. I'm guessing maybe college, because I can remember in high school in Lubbock growing up, we didn't get any chain restaurants. We got our first one, Black Eyed Pea, and I was in high school, and a lot of my friends worked there. And that was like the first chain restaurant Lubbock ever had. Everything was mom and pop.
Like owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of hotels, and then probably my high school years when we started getting a lot of hotels, and which is good for tech because everything's booked during football season and basketball season. So,
since you guys celebrated mostly all the holidays, which one was your favorite, and how did you guys celebrate it?
I think my favorite was Easter, because my grandmother would always make the Easter bunny cake, and we would hide eggs, and
Where do you go?
being the youngest, I got to go first.
So you had a lot of perks growing up being the youngest.
Yes, looking back now, yeah, I did. Being the youngest out of my family and just out of all of my cousins.
Yeah, and since you guys were the Baptist church, you guys did really like Easter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So were you guys also really big on Christmas?
Yeah, we were really big on Christmas. We would, always the big feast was the major thing.
Yeah.
Having big meals, going to church on Christmas Eve, and then having Christmas brunch, and then Christmas dinner on Christmas Day.
We were talking about how you guys all, like, you and your siblings lived in a home, right? And then right now it's pretty hard to get homes. Do you think that's like, because like back then was mostly everyone living in homes and stuff like that?
Yeah, everybody either lived in an apartment or a home. I guess apartments were more rare compared to homes. Most everybody rented or, bought a home. But there was a few in apartments. I don't think at the time Lubbock had a whole lot of apartments, but they do now.
Yeah.
So the house I grew up in was just the same house my dad still lives in. It's basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2 living, 2-car garage. So growing up, I did have to share a room with my sister.
How did that go for you?
I was the horrible elementary while she was in high school, so you can imagine that didn't go.
Gap?
Yeah, and she was messy, and I didn't like that, so we did have tape in the middle of our room.
Was that real?
That's for real. We had masking tape. We had a line divided in our room, and if she had anything on my side, I threw it back.
Freaked out.
Yeah. So that we probably shared a room till I probably hit junior high, and then I moved my room to the second living area until she went to college.
Got it. So, growing up, did you spend most of your time in your childhood home, or like out in the playing with the in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, I had a set of friends, and so we would rotate every Friday, whose house we spent the night at, and just did girl stuff. Went to the movies.
Yeah. So I'm thinking you didn't really move from home to home growing up. Was that later on?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Once I got in college and moved out.
How was that? Just like going from place to place.
It's always fun and exciting.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to be rid of mom and dad, even though you go back to do your laundry or to eat.
Of course. So the home that you're living in now, would you say that, like, do you like living here better than you did over there?
I do like it better. I do go back to Lubbock often, about every 6 weeks. What I don't like about Lubbock is all the dirt in the air because of all the farmland, and I sneeze and have horrible allergies the entire time. But I do get a visit with my dad, and we always eat at the same places and always go to church. So there's a good handful of people that had kids my age who still go to that church that I still see from time to time, and so that's always fun to see them.
I'm going to visit.
Yeah.
So how were meal times like in your family?
Meal times, Sunday everybody was there at lunch after church. That was our one meal together. And then during the week, we all ate the same meal, but it was usually different times because, like, my sister was older and worked, so she would eat at different times.
What were the meals like? Like, what foods were there?
Basic, roast on Sunday. When I was in high school and my brother was in high school, I think my sister was gone, Mom would just make a bunch of taco meat, and then my brother and I, because we had open lunch at high school, so we would come home every day at lunch and with all of our friends, and we would have nachos or tacos just about every day.
Yeah, it's pretty basic food.
Yeah, she would always have sandwich stuff and chicken tenders and basic things.
Yeah. Did you have any pets growing up?
I didn't. My brother did. I'm not a big pet lover, but my brother always had a dog. He had an iguana.
So you had real exotic ones.
Yeah, the iguana, I did not like it. It was a escape artist. It'd get out of its cage and it'd just be lurking at you.
How were your parents about that?
Oh, they did not like. They wanted the iguana in the cage. So, yeah, and the iguana got out and I think got too cold, and that's how it died. I think it got out of the house, but my brother found it in the yard.
Was he a good parent to the iguana? Did he take care of it good?
Oh yeah, my brother did. Yeah,
He was obsessed
and
with
we
it?
always had dogs and cats.
Yeah,
Just growing up. Yes, my parents. Even I guess after we all left the house, they still had dogs.
Yeah.
They still had little weenie dogs everywhere.
Those are so cute. What type of clothes did you guys wear? Was it just regular old clothes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Elementary, I wore overalls every single day, and they were bright colored. I don't know why.
Overalls was such a thing back then too, no?
Yep.
No,
And then in junior high, it was Guess overalls. You had to have the overalls that had Guess on it. That was the big thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Guess came out. I think it was in 7th grade when Guess came out, and that
It was like the big hot thing.
Yep, it was the big hot thing.
Would you say that people got bullied if they didn't wear certain stuff, or if they wore certain
No,
stuff?
I don't think. Not necessarily bullied, but you were like, oh, she has the Guess.
Was it not like the other way around? Like if she wasn't wearing the Guess, was it like, oh, she's not wearing the Guess?
I'm sure there was some like
Yeah,
that, but
it's not around you,
yeah, I mean,
or you didn't hear about it.
yeah,
How did your family get around?
cars.
Yeah. Did you have, like, you never used public transportations?
Never until I hit Tech and I had to ride the city bus, because at Tech you have to park a good mile away from campus.
Were cars more normalized than public transportation?
Yes.
When you learned how to drive, can you please describe your experience there?
It was horrible. My parents were not going to teach me how to drive, so I had to rely on my brother and sister. Not very good.
Yeah.
And so I did driver's ed, and then I just kind of drove on my own.
Yeah.
Got my license. I was very scared to death because nobody ever really drove with me but my brother and sister.
How old were you when you learned how to drive?
Oh, I was 16 because my parents were done taking me to work and to school and picking us up and all of that.
Just kind of started fending for yourself?
Yeah, basically, third child, I always had to fend for myself.
What sort of entertainment did you grow up with?
Movies, occasional concerts. Tech always has the big lighting of the tree, so growing up, we'd always go to that.
There.
Yeah, because they had a bunch of carolers and different things going on.
Got it. What did you listen to? Who was the big hot artist?
Michael Jackson.
It was?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go to a concert of his?
No. I went to Huey Lewis in 8th grade.
Was that a big hot thing too? I never heard
He
of
was.
him.
Yep. He's
What type of genre did he play?
pop.
Pop?
Yeah. So I saw him. I went to several country concerts because, Lubbock's all country.
Do you remember, like, watching any, like, big thing on the TV? Like, certain...
Yes. I love the Solid Gold Dancers on Saturday night with Dionne Warwick. Trying to think the name of the show. I can't remember. But they did the countdown on the music. Junior high, MTV came out, and that was big. You had to watch all the videos on MTV. And Friday night, MTV had a big video thing, genre that they would play and count down. So it was a big thing to watch MTV.
So MTV was, like, big?
Yeah, when MTV came out, it was big.
Yeah, I've heard.
That was our only way to see videos, music videos and things.
Do you remember of any epidemics or diseases that happened? No?
No.
Or how was COVID in your point of view?
COVID made me stop and really, kind of look at my life, get healthy. One reason why I started working out a lot is because I was so bored. Obviously, I couldn't work. My husband was with me. Of course, he was working remotely and very loud because he's always on calls with 10 different people on 10 different screens. And so, so COVID, we kind of got healthy, started eating healthy, and then never stopped.
Resumed life. Was there any, like, major impactful things in your life?
3rd grade. my sister's friend slammed my finger in the door and cut off the front part of my finger. That was very exciting. And it was my first time I heard my sister say a cuss word. I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
How much trouble did they get into?
They didn't get any trouble. I mean, it was just a freak accident. And the problem was the neighbor, if we ever had any problem, we'd go to the neighbor, but the neighbor didn't drive. So we had to call, and Mom was at work, and Dad was at work, and Dad was a salesman, so you couldn't really find him easily. So we had to call a friend's mom to come get me. And the message my mom got was, I cut my finger and it needs stitches. So the lady picked me up and took me to meet my mom at the doctor's office. And then the doctor was like, oh no, you got to go to the hospital. And so it was a big ordeal. I was in third grade. I remember it like yesterday, everything that happened, and vividly, because we weren't supposed to go home and start our homework and not eat anything. And I think I went home and had like 10 cookies and like 3 glasses of milk. And then when I was at the hospital, they were like, did you eat anything? I was like,
of course not.
And she's like, you got to tell me. I got to know. And I was like, I'll get in big trouble. And then she's like, I promise I won't tell your mom.
Oh my goodness.
She's like, but I got to know what you ate, for the medicine and stuff. And I was like, okay. So then
you told on yourself.
I did. And then I remember when my dad finally came into the hospital, he got the message that my sister had cut her finger in home ec. And so he was like white as a ghost when he saw me laying in the bed.
Oh,
and it took
so he wasn't ready for that.
No, he wasn't. It took forever, and then so I ended up going into surgery that night. And I think it was like 2 a.m. time. The whole ordeal was done, and I was back in my room. So yeah, very
traumatic experience.
Very traumatic, and I thought, ooh, I'm out of school for weeks. 2 days I was back at school. It was really
only 2 days.
Only 2 days.
Oh my.
I was rather sad about that.
Yeah, so you had your finger chopped off and only 2 days off school.
2 days and a huge cast. And it was just like.
What did they say whenever you went back to school? Like the students?
No, then they were like, let me see it. And I was like, I don't even know what it looks like.
Oh, Oh, because they put a cast over it?
Yeah, they put a cast on it. So.
What was your first job?
My first job was, I worked for a lady in the church who had a steakhouse. So when she had a banquet room, so my first job was like in 8th grade. She would hire us. We would come in and set up the banquet hall and, set up salads and the tables and teas and waters. And then when the banquet started, we'd walk around, just refill glasses and pick up all the dirty dishes, and then we'd serve the meal. And she would just pay a cash because we were obviously illegally working.
24 hour child labor.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much money you made?
No, I don't remember. I remember I was thinking, ooh, I'm rich.
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. And then I guess when I started high school, 10th grade, my first job was at the supermarket, United, and they had a VHS movie rental place. And so I worked in that.
Kind of like a movie theater or what?
No, it was just like a Blockbuster.
Oh, okay.
But it was inside
the
supermarket.
So what has been the longest job you have kept or worked?
The longest? Well, I worked for the county auditor's office probably 7 or 8 years. I loved that job, but we moved. And then when we got to Dallas, I think I worked for Plano ISD in the business office probably for 7, 8 years. And then when we moved over here.
Got it. Do you have any influential mentors or any lessons that you have learned throughout your life?
Lessons? No, just kind of how you're brought up. Be honest, work hard, do the right thing. When you go to the store and they don't charge you for something, I'm the one that goes back and pays for it because I don't want any bad juju coming my way. Honesty is the best policy, I think, with everything.
What would you say has been your greatest accomplishment?
My greatest? Probably get married for 30 years and raising a family.
What are some of the challenges you faced?
It's just hard. It's just hard when you're working and you have kids and you're trying to meet all their needs in all of their events, and then, still have a life, and, it's just not easy.
Whenever you went to college, did you ever face any gender discriminations? Or not towards you specifically, but like towards other people?
Probably yes. LGBTQ was kind of not the norm then.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, I guess, a lot of stuff on that.
Okay.
You know, which I was just raised. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know,
Let
you,
them be.
yeah, you love them, you like them, you live with them. You know,
Yeah.
treat them like anybody else and go on. So that's just how I was raised. So it never
Affected
bothered.
you, yeah.
It never affected me. I mean, I had friends of all sorts and stuff because
Yeah.
of that.
And all the clubs you were into, it was very diverse.
Yeah, everything was very diverse. I think my parents made sure of that too. I know my dad was raised in such a small town, and he will never move to a small town again, which I completely understand. Yes, and so I think because of that, my parents just raised us to, you know,
Be open.
yeah, be open, love anyone for who they are, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, did your parents go through the Great Depression?
No, they both did. My dad has spoken a few times.
About it?
Yes, he was a child, and he had to have been probably late elementary school.
Yeah.
And he would talk about how for them, because they farmed and they ran cattle. It was my dad's job to do a lot of like milking the cow, feeding the chickens, gathering the eggs, things like that before school. And then my dad also had a paper route, so he rode a bike and a moped a lot. And at the time, I can just remember Dad saying you couldn't get tires, and so anytime you popped a wheel, you had to patch. That was the big thing. And that the neighbor kid threw a bunch of tacks on him. They were fighting or something, I don't know. And he popped a hole in his bicycle, and my grandfather got very upset and whipped them both for it. So that was just, you know, what my dad remembers.
Have you ever attended any protests?
I have not. And I know during COVID, there was a lot of protests in Austin going on.
Also in Dallas, there was a bunch.
Yes, there was a bunch, but my daughter lived there, and she was going to go to one.
Yeah.
And I just told her, I don't feel good about that. You know, you got to do what you got to do, but I wouldn't go. Well, she ended up not going.
They were getting super violent. At
Yes,
the time.
and her friend did, and her friend was standing there when shots fired and started running because she called me like, "Oh my God, Mom, you were so right."
So right.
Yeah, like they're violent. And I was like, yeah, it's just not worth being in a round crowd.
That was the time where it got super out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were rioting everywhere for the right purposes, of course, but they just kind of. I feel like they kind of did it the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A protest should not be violent if you really want to get your point across. You know, it's because you believe in something firmly, but, you know, violence is never an answer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, sorry. In general, how do you think history has affected you or impacted your life?
I think you learn from history. You learn from the hard times. You know, I can remember, you know, my grandparents saying all the time, save for that rainy day, save for the rainy day. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, meaning, you know.
Have backup plans. And
yeah,
stuff.
have backup plans, have a way to get cash, because I know at one point you couldn't get cash.
Yeah.
I know my grandmother would tell me stories how they would keep money in the mattress, literally, and bury jars. Because they didn't trust the banks and stuff, and they would bury jars in the backyard as well. And so I just think from that you just learn, you know, you always have a way, because, you know, just like the day when AT&T went out, nobody had cell service. For some weird reason, I did, and it's just like how quickly everybody at school just went down for not having cell service. So it just kind of makes you think things like, oh yeah, I need to have
backup plans
and a way to do things.
Got it. So last question, do you have any advice?
Love the Lord with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and He'll never lead you astray.
Got it. Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you.